Imagine standing on a frozen lake. The ice beneath your feet is paper-thin, cracking at every step. You are carrying a heavy wooden crate on your shoulders, your knees trembling, your breath coming in ragged gasps. Just a few feet away on the safe, solid shore, people are waving, holding out sturdy ropes for you to grab. All you have to do is reach out one hand and say, "I need help." But instead, you tighten your grip, look straight ahead, and walk deeper onto the ice, whispering, "I can handle this." Why do we do this? Why do some of us choose to drown under the weight of our lives rather than do the simplest, most human thing in the world? It sounds like stubbornness, or maybe pride. But the truth is far more unsettling. That refusal to ask for help is not a personality quirk. It is a highly sophisticated, deeply buried survival mechanism, a silent fortress built in the dark to protect something incredibly fragile. And once you understand what is actually happening inside the mind of someone who always says, "I have got it," you will never look at strength the same way again.
To find the blueprint of this silent fortress, we have to look at someone like Marcus. If you met Marcus, you would think he has his entire life perfectly figured out. He is the guy who shows up to the gym at exactly 6 in the morning every single day, without fail.
He wears heavy over-ear headphones, pulls his hood up, and keeps his eyes locked forward. He does not look around for a high five, he does not have a workout partner, and he absolutely does not want a hype man. To the regular gym-goers, Marcus might look arrogant, cold, or antisocial. But that is a lazy guess. In reality, Marcus is protecting something. The gym is not just a place where he lifts weights, it is his sanctuary of absolute cognitive control. It is one of the only places in his world where every variable is within his power. The playlist, the pace, the rest times, the heavy iron. There are no unexpected changes, no late arrivals, and no broken promises. For Marcus, this solo ritual is a form of emotional regulation, a daily practice that keeps the chaotic pieces of his life from scattering. If you were to force a training partner into his routine, you would not be helping him, you would be destroying the very thing that keeps him sane.
But why is control so deeply tied to his survival? To understand that, we have to go back to a cold, rainy afternoon when Marcus was just 8 years old. He was sitting on the concrete steps outside his school, watching other children get picked up by their parents. His father had promised to pick him up at 3 o'clock.
But 3 became 4, then 5, then 6. As Marcus sat there shivering, a quiet, powerful realization took root in his young mind. Depending on someone else was not just disappointing, it was dangerous. It left you cold and powerless. Years later, during a high school group project, his teammates vanished, leaving him to do the work of 4 people overnight to avoid failing. That lesson was cemented. Marcus did not just learn to rely on himself, he learned that other people were unreliable variables that created risk. He built an invisible shield. Do not build your consistency around anyone else, because eventually they will let you down. Psychologists call this mindset a high internal locus of control. It is the deep-seated belief that your outcomes in life are determined entirely by your own actions, not by luck, and certainly not by other people. For a long time, this belief served Marcus incredibly well. It made him a straight-A student, an elite athlete, and eventually, a highly successful lead architect at a top firm.
In his professional life, Marcus is a machine. When a massive, high-stakes project lands on his desk with an impossible deadline, he does not flinch. He simply puts his head down and works. When his colleagues notice the dark circles forming under his eyes and ask if he needs them to take over the client presentations or help with the complex models, Marcus offers a polite, practiced smile and says, "No thanks, I have got it under control."
It looks like dedication. It looks like the ultimate corporate work ethic. But beneath that polished, professional exterior, a silent storm is gathering. Because Marcus is not just working hard, he is running a non-stop, hyper-vigilant internal performance review on himself. He feels that he is constantly being observed, evaluated, and measured. The thought of letting someone else step in and see his unfinished work, or worse, see him struggle, is terrifying. It triggers a profound level of social anxiety. In Marcus's mind, showing vulnerability is the equivalent of opening a massive breach in his fortress walls. If he lets someone help, they will see that he is not perfect. They will see that he does not have everything figured out. And once that shield is gone, he believes he will lose all control. So, instead of sharing the load, he decides to optimize his life to carry it all alone. He starts researching sleep hacks, trying to find ways to sleep fewer hours and still wake up feeling fresh and fully charged.
He tries to program his sleep in strict 90-minute cycles, hoping that 4.5 or 6 hours of highly efficient, uninterrupted rest will give his brain the recovery it needs. He cuts out caffeine after 2 in the afternoon, sets his bedroom to a freezing temperature, and places his phone in another room.
He does everything right according to the science of sleep optimization. But there is a fatal flaw in his equation. You cannot optimize a system that is constantly flooded with cortisol. Because Marcus refuses to ask for help, his mind is in a perpetual state of hypervigilance. He lies in bed at night, his brain waves trapped in high beta alert mode, spinning with an endless list of tasks, deadlines, and potential failures. Even when he does manage to drift off, his sleep is fragmented and light. The deep, restorative sleep and the dreaming phases of REM that his brain desperately needs are cut short by the sheer volume of stress hormones coursing through his veins. He wakes up at 5:30 in the morning feeling like he has been run over by a truck. His eyes burn, his brain is fogged, and his heart is pounding with a low-level, persistent dread. Yet, he refuses to hit snooze. He forces his body out of bed, splashes freezing water on his face, and heads back to the gym to lift weights in silence, trying to force his mind back into submission.
He is trying to cure a psychological wound with physical discipline, using the gym to regulate a nervous system that is slowly, quietly burning out. And then, the high-stakes project hits its critical phase. A major client demands a complete redesign of the building's central structure, and they want it in 3 days.
The workload triples overnight. Marcus's colleagues see the sheer volume of work and offer to help. His manager suggests bringing in an external consultant to ease the pressure. This is the moment where any normal person would gratefully hand over a portion of the burden. This is the moment to reach for the rope. But for Marcus, the offer of help does not feel like a relief. It feels like an existential threat. To accept their help would mean admitting that the load is too heavy for him. It would mean admitting that his childhood rule was wrong, that he is not entirely self-sufficient, and that he actually needs other people to survive. To Marcus, that admission feels far more dangerous than the physical collapse of his own body. So, once again, he looks his team in the eyes, suppresses the tremor in his hands, and says, "Do not worry about it. I have already mapped out the changes. I can get this done by Friday."
He goes back to his desk, shuts the door, and begins a 72-hour descent into a private hell. He drinks cup after cup of black coffee, ignoring the fact that the late-night caffeine is completely destroying what little deep sleep he has left. He stares at the glowing monitor until the architectural lines begin to blur.
His muscles tighten into painful, rigid knots. He is working at a furious pace, but his cognitive efficiency is plummeting. Because his brain is starved of restorative rest, his focus is fractured, and he starts making tiny, careless errors in the calculations. He catches one mistake, then another, and the realization that he is slipping only heightens his panic. The hyper-vigilant internal reviewer in his mind is now screaming, telling him that he is failing, that he is exposed, and that if anyone finds out, his entire identity of the strong, self-reliant leader will crumble to dust. He is completely trapped inside his own silent fortress, suffocating under the weight of a heavy wooden crate, while the ice beneath him begins to make a deep, resonant cracking sound. The clock on the office wall reads 3:15 in the morning. The silence is broken only by the hum of the air conditioner and the rapid clicking of Marcus's mouse. He is staring at the master's structural calculations for the client's commercial pavilion. A single load-bearing coefficient keeps shifting in his mind.
He recalculates it 5 times, but each time his exhausted brain delivers a different result. His chest feels tight, as if an iron band is wrapping around his ribs. He attempts to take a deep, stabilizing breath, but the air catches in his throat. This is the physical reality of acute sleep deprivation.
His nervous system is trapped in high-beta brainwave activity, a frantic frequency of hypervigilance where the mind treats every pending task as an imminent threat. He is running on pure adrenaline and a stubborn, childhood-born refusal to show a single crack in his armor. For years, Marcus believed his self-reliance was a superpower. His ability to function under extreme pressure was a shield keeping the unpredictable world at bay. But now, that shield feels like a tomb. His eyes burn, his hands tremble, and a dull pain settles behind his temples. For 3 days, he has tried to bypass human limits with fragmented 90-minute sleep cycles, freezing showers, and constant caffeine, 4 to 6. He treated his body like a machine to be hacked, ignoring the psychological truth that you cannot optimize a system flooded by stress hormones. The cortisol in his system has shut down deep, restorative sleep, leaving him cognitively compromised at the exact moment he needs to be sharpest. When the presentation meeting begins at 9 o'clock, the boardroom is filled with senior partners and the client's top engineers.
Marcus stands at the front, his laser pointer steady only because he is squeezing his fingers against his palm. He starts explaining the structural modifications, his voice practiced and calm. But 10 minutes in, a senior engineer raises his hand. The engineer points to a section on the screen and asks a simple question about the load distribution across the central archway.
Marcus looks at the slide. Suddenly, the numbers look like a foreign language. His brain goes completely blank. The room feels warm, and the ventilation system sounds deafeningly loud. The silence stretches for 10 seconds. To Marcus, those 10 seconds feel like an eternity, a slow-motion collapse of everything he has spent his life building. His manager, sensing the sudden tension, gently steps in. He offers a quick, reassuring explanation, guiding the conversation back on track and giving Marcus a moment to recover. But for Marcus, the damage is done. The internal performance reviewer in his head is screaming. He has been exposed. He has stumbled in front of the very people he wanted to impress, and worst of all, he had to be saved by someone else. The meeting ends with the client approving the design, but Marcus does not feel a sense of victory. As the partners offer congratulations and walk out, he feels only a profound, hollow exhaustion. He packs up his laptop, slides his headphones on, and walks out. He does not say goodbye to his team.
He just needs to escape to the only place where he still feels like he has control. He drives straight to the gym, dropping his bag and walking toward the heavy dumbbells. This is his sanctuary, the place where he regulates his mind through self-paced physical discipline. He reaches down to pick up a 90-pound dumbbell for a routine pressing movement, a weight he has lifted hundreds of times before.
He grips the cold steel, braces his core, and pulls. But his muscles refuse to cooperate. A sharp, burning spasm flares across his lower back, and his shoulder joint feels weak and unstable. He has to let the weight drop back onto the rack with a loud, metallic clang. He stands there, staring at his hands, his breath coming in shallow gasps. His body has finally staged a rebellion. He cannot lift, he cannot run, and he cannot think. The fortress has crumbled. As he sits on the edge of a bench, head in his hands, a rhythmic, repetitive sound catches his attention from the far corner of the gym. It is a crisp, snapping sound, like a whip cracking against the rubber flooring. Slap, 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 slap. Marcus looks up and sees an older boxer skipping rope. The man's movement is incredibly fluid, a hypnotic display of coordination where his hands, feet, and breath are locked into a perfect, effortless rhythm. The rope is a blur of motion, but the boxer's face is completely relaxed, almost meditative.
He is not fighting the movement. He is riding it. There is an unmistakable lightness to his steps, a springy agility that makes him look completely weightless. Intrigued by the sheer efficiency of the movement, Marcus walks over to the equipment rack. He finds a basic licorice jump rope, a simple vinyl cord with weighted handles, and steps onto an empty patch of floor.
He adjusts the length, holding the handles at his waist, and attempts his first swing. The rope catches on the back of his heels. He tries again, jumping too high, his shoulders tense, his arms flailing. The rope hits his shins with a sharp, stinging pain. He realizes immediately that skipping rope is a skill that cannot be forced by raw physical strength or stubborn willpower. If your mind is racing, if you are thinking about the client, the presentation, or the fear of failure, your timing will be off, and the rope will punish you. It requires an absolute, uncompromised presence in the immediate moment. He drops his shoulders, brings his elbows close, and keeps his hands at waist level. He swings the rope again, this time jumping only high enough to clear the thin plastic cord, landing softly on the balls of his feet. He manages 3 clean jumps, then 5, then 10. With each successful jump, the chaotic noise in his mind begins to quiet down. The rhythmic movement acts like a physical anchor, pulling his brain out of the hyper-vigilant beta waves and shifting him into a state of rhythmic focus.
For the first time in weeks, he is not thinking about the past or worrying about the future. He is simply present, coordinating his hands, his feet, and his breathing with the precise swing of the rope. That evening, Marcus does something he has not done since he was a child. He does not try to program his sleep, he does not set a series of complex alarms, and he does not review his architectural models.
Instead, he sits down at his kitchen table with a plain piece of paper. He begins to write down everything spinning in his head, his fear of letting people down, the exhaustion he has been hiding, and the memory of sitting on those cold school steps waiting for his father. He realizes that his lifelong refusal to ask for help was never about strength. It was a defense mechanism designed to protect an 8-year-old boy from ever feeling abandoned again. He was still sitting on those steps, trying to prove to the world that he did not need anyone. But the weight he was carrying was never meant for a single person to bear. By dumping his thoughts onto paper, he transitions his nervous system out of fight-or-flight mode, preparing his brain for true, deep recovery. On Monday, Marcus walks in and calls a meeting with his design team. He looks at his colleagues, the people who offered to help him when he was drowning. His old instinct is telling him to stay quiet, to keep the shield up. But he remembers the rhythm of the jump rope, the realization that true coordination requires different parts of a system working together, rather than one part doing all the work.
He takes a breath, lets his hands rest loosely on the table, and says, "I want to thank you all for your support last week. I try to do too much on my own, and it almost compromised the project. Going forward, I want us to restructure how we handle these workloads.
I need to delegate some of the structural modeling, and I would really appreciate your support in managing the client presentations. A quiet, appreciative nod goes around the table. No one looks at him with disappointment. No one sees him as weak. In fact, his team looks relieved, ready to step up and share the responsibility. Marcus feels a massive weight lift off his shoulders. The ice beneath his feet is no longer cracking. He still trains alone at 6 in the morning, keeping his headphones on and his focus locked. But the headphones are no longer a shield. They are simply a tool. He has learned that accepting help is not a loss of control. It is the ultimate form of coordination. We are not meant to carry the heavy crates of life alone, and sometimes the greatest strength you can show is simply reaching out your hand. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Mind in Minutes for more psychology stories like this. Thank you for watching.